Hello, New York Giants fans. Welcome back to the Everything New York Giants podcast with New York Giants fangirl. I'm your host, Adrianna. Today's podcast is recapping the Giants versus Vikings game, the home season opener, celebrating the 100th season on top of celebrating the top 100 New York Giants. Phil Simms and Eli Manning rang the bell to start the game. Top 100 players were honored at halftime, and the Giants lost 28-6. Not a single touchdown, one single sack, and honestly, I haven't even looked at the rest of the stat line because it's all bad. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Briefly go through the stats. I don't really think anyone cares, but let's see if there's anything good to highlight. Go through the injuries. Talk about the coaching staff and the decisions that were made, because I have a lot to say about that. And then, where we go from here. I'm going to preface this by saying when I record the podcast, I do the best to rein in my cursing. I do. I understand that some people are upset by it. To be honest, I think you're kind of a baby, but, if you have kids in the car, fine. Please don't listen to this with children, because I'm going to do my best to rein it in, but I can't make any promises. And I know that when I get to the coaching decisions, I'm going to get heated and there's going to be some F-bombs. So don't say I didn't warn you, okay? Let's get started. Daniel Jones, 22 for 42 for 186 yards, averaging 4.4, per reception, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 5 sacks. I don't even know what to say. The thing that concerns me the most about it is that it might have been his worst game as a Giant, which he's had some pretty bad games, and I think we would all agree with that. But, going from the preseason game where we saw him make the pick six and some of the bad interceptions, and then in the second quarter, he turned it around and started to play a little bit better. Yesterday, as the game went on, he got worse, which, just doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't know how it could have gotten worse when you're missing targets, throwing the ball at their feet, taking sacks you shouldn't have taken. The O-line actually was kind of decent on pass blocking, and he still couldn't make the throws. I just don't get it. And I know everyone's going to be like, he's just a bad quarterback, which I get, but we also have seen him play decent football games. And when the offensive line was pass blocking, and for the most part, receivers were able to get open. I mean, Neighbors wasn't wide open every single play. He was double teamed. Forget about Hyatt. I don't even know what we have to say about him, because he was on the field for approximately 7 snaps and had 1 target, which he didn't fucking catch. So, Wandale was fine. Theo Johnson had a drop. Neighbors had, the receivers had some drops. But outside of the drops, he just couldn't make the throws. And he's made the throws before, and he looked so good with Neighbors, especially during the summer. I just don't understand the regression. And I think that's the most concerning part to me, is that I know he hasn't played, and listen, I know no one wants to hear excuses and they don't want to hear anything, but there are still things that can be true at the same time. He's not a great quarterback. Very true. But he also hasn't played football in 9 months. And my problem with every single player on this team outside of Dexter Lawrence, is that they didn't play during the preseason. So my expectations going into the game was that there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be some penalties. I expected, it's week 1. I expected some bad play and some bad decisions and some, you know, issues, communication, shit like that. I didn't expect a horrible regression in play from him and kind of everyone else on the team. Like, when we talk about the defense, we're gonna get to the pass rush, but like literally it seems like everyone played 100 times worse than what they're capable of. And I don't get it. Is it because you didn't play at all during preseason? Like Jones, I get a part of it is a talent thing. He just doesn't have the talent. I get it. I know that. But for him to play that horribly, and again, just as the game went on, not get better, the interceptions were in the second half. The pick six was the second half. I have no words and I don't know how to explain it, and like I don't have any answers. I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that his play was so much worse. And listen, everyone who hates on Daniel Jones is like, I know he's not a good quarterback, like this is what he is, but he's not always that bad. Like, he's had some good throws and some good plays and he's won some games. And I don't know. Like, I don't even know what else to say. It was so much worse than what I ever could have expected it to be. And I think that's what's so scary, because the offensive line was blocking well enough for him not to have made those mistakes and for him to just completely miss wide open guys, to throw balls at their feet. Like, what the fuck was that? Why is that happening? Why are you doing that? Like, you got the nickname Danny Dimes because you were accurate. And there was just none of that yesterday. I don't know. And I know people are going to say, well, we should just bench him for Locke. And I get where you're coming from. I do. And I can see the argument that you're going to make. And this is the argument, right? Is that Drew Lock is likely not going to make some of the stupid decisions that Daniel Jones makes because only he makes those mistakes. Which I think if you watch any of our quarterbacks in preseason, you would probably disagree. But like, I just think that Drew Lock is not really going to be the saving grace here. So is he going to be better than Daniel Jones? Maybe a little bit, sure. Maybe he's not going to see the ghost that Jones was seeing yesterday and take sacks that he's not necessarily supposed to take. But you're not talking about like Trevor Lawrence versus Drew Lock or Jones here. Like, and I don't even think Trevor Lawrence is an amazing quarterback, but he's obviously better than what we have on this team. So I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. The people saying sign Tannehill, like, I think we're probably just better off with Locke. We already paid him $5 million for this 1 year. He's our quarterback. Just put him in. And if it doesn't work and we continue to suck, then everyone's going to be watching college football and talking about the quarterback that we're going to get. So I don't know. Okay, let's keep going with the offense. The rushing, 21 carries for 74 yards. Bad. I mean, Singletary was fine. He had 37 of those 74 yards and Jones had 15, which we'll get into the coaching decisions soon, but like, just awful. Singletary, Jones, 15, Wan'Dale, 14, Eric Gray, 6, Tyron Tracy, 2. 74 yards rushing. Like, if your quarterback can't throw the ball, then you have to run the ball successfully. So where the fuck was the pass blocking? I don't know. I mean, excuse me, the run blocking. Because the pass blocking was okay. I don't really have any explanations here. Receiving, 22 receptions for 186 yards. Neighbors, 5 receptions out of 7 targets for 66. Wan'Dale, 6 receptions out of 12 targets. Now, I know that Jones really fucked up a lot of the throws to Wan'Dale, but I think he also had 1 or 2 drops. Darius Slayton, 3 receptions out of 4 for 26 yards. Theo, 1 out of 4 for 18 yards. Again, same issues here. I mean, does anyone care? Jalen Hyatt, 1 target, 0 receptions. I mean, and the ball was in his hands. Like, that's on him. And all right, let's just talk about the offense as a whole for a second, because literally everyone was bad except for Andrew Thomas, who even gave up a sack, and I won't even give him a hard time about it. It's week 1. Fine. Everyone makes mistakes. He's allowed to make a mistake every once in a while. Everyone else, no excuses. Like, I'll give Runyon the benefit of the doubt. He literally did not play this entire offseason essentially because of a shoulder injury. Didn't play during preseason, didn't really play during training camp. So I get that the line was still kind of figuring it out from a run blocking perspective. Next week, there's no excuse for that. There's really not. And there's just so much blame to go around. And I know everyone wants to put it on Daniel Jones, and I agree with you. He had literally the worst game of his career. He looked like the worst quarterback I've probably ever watched play in the NFL. But everyone else also sucked. So drops from receivers, again, Hyatt, it was in his fucking hands. Like, you can't drop balls like that. And same thing with Neighbors. First catch he should have had. Theo Johnson should have had a catch. Everyone has to pull their weight. And again, I expect a couple mistakes here and there. It's week 1. I get it. I get the issues. I'm okay with that. But when you are losing the game because you're beating yourself, that is a whole nother problem. The penalties, too many people in the huddle. Are you guys fucking kidding me? Daboll delay a game because he couldn't get the playoff in time. Like, what is going on? There were 9 penalties, I'm pretty sure. 9 penalties for like 95 yards or something. 9? And some of this has to fall on Daboll because your players look like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And it's the 3rd year in the system. Okay? So again, I was willing, and if they played better football, and if they won 28-27 or 28-24, or it was relatively a close game and they looked somewhat competitive, we can forgive the mistakes because it's week 1, right? The Bengals lost to the fucking Patriots. So there's a little bit of leeway here, especially when none of them played in preseason, which is asinine to me. A quarter, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't count because it looked like a single one of them didn't play any snaps. And for that to be the showing, and it's your honor, it's a 1 o'clock home game, and you're honoring legends in this fucking building who have brought you multiple Super Bowls, who've been the only reason why this team has ever been talked about in a positive light, and that's what you put on the field. It's disgraceful. Disgraceful. I was there, and the tailgate was the most fun, and I left early again, which is unfortunately now becoming a commonality with my time at MetLife, and I don't want it to be like that. And a fucking skull chant broke out after the pick 6, because then all the Giants fans started leaving. This is what we have become, and it is awful. And I'm like angry, but I'm also just depressed. It's just so depressing. I'm listening to all the other Giants creators podcasts today, and everyone's just like, it feels like they just took a beating. Like, this is it. This is what we saw. And again, it's week 1. I'm not going to say we're going to go 0-17. And if you want to believe that, that's fine. But I think there's a little bit of room for them to turn it around. I don't know how. I don't know how. I mean, like, they just have to play better. And that's what I expect, in week 2. But when you're having the same issues that you had last year, like Gunnar getting injured during the pregame warmups and putting Darius Slayton back on the punt return, who looked like he was about to shit his pants, that was our best option? Really? 51 players on the roster, and you couldn't elevate anyone up? Couldn't give anyone else the punt return duties? So Darius Slayton, one of the only fumbles of the day, luckily it was recovered by the Giants because that's all we needed. We could barely get any momentum going the entire game, and then that happens. Great. Let's talk about the defense, because there was like maybe 2 good things that happened. First of them being Bobby Okereke recovering a fumble that was forced by Drew Phillips, who's one of the few players we have good things to talk about. So good job, Drew Phillips. And Dane Belton is the one who recovered the Darius Slayton fumble. So good job, Dane Belton. Let's talk about the defense. Tyler Nubin, our rookie safety, led the team with 7 tackles. 7. We had 7 tackles. Let's just go through the stat line, okay? 50 total tackles, 39 of them solo. 1 sack by Dexter Lawrence, our saving grace on this team. Thank you, Dexter. And it happened early on in the game. I was like, oh my God, we started off the game on the right foot. Our defense gets a stop. We're going to be good. All downhill from there. 4 tackles for loss. 4 pass deflections. 2 quarterback hits. 1 by Dexter Lawrence and 1 by Kayvon. The stat line is useless. Darius Mosso, number 2, is 6 total tackles. He had 1 tackle for loss and 1 pass deflection. He also had the interception, which, this is not a knock on him. Anyone could have caught that ball. So thank God that he did, because it would have looked worse if he didn't. I'm going to get into the Micah McFadden thing in a second, but okay, let's just quickly go through the 4 tackles for loss. Darius Mosso, Deonte Banks, Drew Phillips, Dexter Lawrence. 4 pass deflections, Darius Mosso, Dexter Lawrence, Jason Pinnock, Dave Belton, and then we already went through the 2 quarterback hits and Darius Mosso's interception. I have a lot of issues with the defense. Let's start with Micah McFadden. Daboll was asked in the post game why Micah McFadden didn't play, because he was suited up on the side with his helmet on and was not on the injury report, which means that he's healthy and ready to play at any time. And Daboll said some bullshit like, I need to talk to the coaches afterwards and look at the film and blah, blah, blah. But their plan was to start Darius. Why? Why was that the plan going into it? If McFadden is healthy and he's got his fucking helmet on the sidelines and he's not inactive, why did he not see a single snap? So then today, when he was asked about it, because obviously he was asked about it, his answer was, we had McFadden ready if he was needed. So then this is my other problem now, okay? So you felt like watching that game he wasn't needed? You watched that whole game and thought play after play, we don't need Micah McFadden. He can't possibly be better than what the fuck is on the field? Seriously? That was your decision? That's what you thought? I have no words for that. Also, where was Isaiah Simmons? Someone else who was not on the injury report, who was active, who was on the sidelines with his fucking helmet on. And I'm saying to my uncle, why are McFadden and Simmons? I can see them clearly standing next to each other during the whole fucking game on the sidelines. Not a single time did either one of them go out there. Why? Why did you tell us all fucking summer that Isaiah Simmons was going to be our 3rd down nickel? They were going to see Isaiah Simmons 3rd down in the nickel. You know who we saw instead 3rd down on the nickel? Adoree Jackson, or Cordell Flott, which is worse. So you're going to tell me you spent the entire summer with Isaiah Simmons doing that, and then in week 1 when you're getting fucking smoked by the Minnesota Vikings, you're not even going to try Isaiah Simmons because he can't possibly be better than Adoree or Cordell Flott? Seriously? I don't fucking get it. It literally makes no sense to anyone with a brain that has watched what they did all summer. Those were the decisions that you made. And that was what you were going to stick by them when it wasn't fucking working? You decided not to make changes? This is the stuff that as a fan, that's infuriating. And I know as fans, we are infuriated with a lot of things. But I like Daboll. And I want to believe that he's the guy. I really want to believe it because I am not on board with changing coaches every 2 years. I'm not. I don't think it solves the problem. It obviously has not fucking solved the problem for the last 7 years or 8 years, however long it's been at this point. But when he does stuff like that, and when he leaves his starting quarterback, who has an injury history, a fucking neck injury history, no less, when you leave him in the game, when you're down by 22 points, with 2 minutes left. It's garbage fucking time. It's garbage time in the game. There's no one in the stands. Minnesota is laughing at us. You're leaving your starting quarterback in the game, who not only has an injury history, but has an injury settlement in his contract. So that if he gets hurt and doesn't pass his physical, he's guaranteed $25 million. Does Daboll not know about the injury guarantee? Because that is the only logical explanation that could leave him in the game when there's 2 minutes left as the starting quarterback. And then what happens? He gets fucking sacked with a minute left, dragged to the ground. I personally feel like Daboll has something against Daniel Jones. And I don't care what it is, but you're showing it to the world, and that's not okay. If you don't want him to play football and you don't think that he should be the starter, then fucking bench him and put in Drew Lock. Do not leave him out there to get killed so then we're on the hook with him for the next 2 years and our salary cap is fucked. Because you're also putting yourself in a bad position. Like, I don't get it. I just am thinking to myself, is he trying to get himself fired? Like, really? When you're doing these things, and he did it last year against the fucking Cowboys, when you're down 40-0 in the rain. And then his answer in that post game was, we were trying to get something going. It is literally unbelievable. It is unbelievable. That's the best answer that you could come up with. It's the best fucking answer. And then he said something like, well, you know, Jones is competitive and he wanted to stay in. You are the fucking coach. You make the decisions, not the quarterback. You say to him, you suck today. Get the fuck over there and putting someone else in. And you should have done it with Darius Musso and put in Micah McFadden. And you should have done it with Cordell Flott and put in Isaiah Simmons. At least fucking tried it, because those guys got starting reps all summer. And so did Dane Belton. And like, luckily Newbin was okay. He's fine. He's a rookie. Whatever. I can get over that. But you spent all summer telling us one thing. We're going to throw the deep ball. Did anyone see a deep ball shot yesterday? Because I didn't. I certainly didn't. There was one throw of about 20 yards. And it might have not even been 20 yards. One. And the pass blocking was actually okay. So, yes, part of that is on Daniel Jones because he couldn't figure out who was open and to make the throw, which is, we know, a problem. But I'm like, you spent all summer telling us you were going to throw the deep ball. And then, not only do you not throw the deep ball, you tell us Isaiah's going to be the nickel. Oh, Dane Belton's the starter. Oh, this bullshit this and bullshit that. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And I know that we know at this point in our fandom to take things that the coaches and the GM say with a grain of salt. I know that. But you spent the entire summer practicing one thing, and then you go out there on the field and do the other thing, and then this is what you and then this is what we see, and you're not making a single fucking adjustment? Like, what did you expect when you practiced one thing and practice went well? We had a good practice this week. Blah, blah, blah's improving, and so is doing well. And then you go on the field and do the exact opposite and look like fucking shit. Oh my God, I wonder why. I wonder why. I don't get it. I just don't. And I don't think that any one of us are going to have answers. And I think we are all just commiserating right now. But it's so infuriating. And it's so frustrating. And I think the worst part is that I think as a collective, most of us feel like the other quarterbacks are not great solutions. And I know there are people who are just straight hate Daniel Jones and think that anyone is better than him, which is fine. I'm excluding you from this conversation. But the people who watched preseason and watched every preseason game that like I did and watched Drew Lock look horrific also all summer, and watch Tommy DeVito also look terrible. You think Jones can't feel the pocket? Did you watch DeVito play? Because he was getting tackled and had no idea that he was getting tackled. So I don't feel great about any of them as quarterbacks. And that's not me saying that I think Daniel Jones, we should keep riding with him. Daboll already said Jones is going to be the starter, and I expected that. I expect Daniel Jones to be the starter till about week 4. We talked about him having a short leash. I think after last night, it got a lot shorter. If he continues to play the way that he played yesterday, but we start getting more of a run game and guys are definitely wide open and he's missing them and he's not making the throws and the defense is doing their part, then he's getting benched. I would say by week 4. Could be sooner than that, but I think, I think other things around him also have to go better. Like the rushing average was 3.5 yesterday. 3.5 yards a carry. Like you can't win with 74 rushing yards. Okay, so the last thing I want to say, there's 2 things I want to end on. And the first one being the pass rush, because we didn't get to this yet. For those of you who are listening, I'm just fueling up with a little Dunkin' cold brew for a second. It's not sponsored, but Dunkin', if you wanna, I'm on board. Also, please bring back the coconut milk. I have beef with Kayvon Thibodeau, and I like Kayvon. I think he's a good player. But after his performance yesterday, for his press conference to be anything less than 100% humbled is pathetic and embarrassing. The comments that he made was some bullshit. Like, someone said something like, you didn't really have any tackles, or like you and Burns between the two of you had 3 tackles. And he said some shit like, yeah, and I had a quarterback hit. Are you fucking kidding me? That's your answer? That's your answer instead of saying 3 tackles between the 2 of us who are supposed to be 2 of the best players on this fucking defense? Yeah, that's embarrassing. We need to be better. That's what you should have fucking said, Kayvon. And anything less than that is disgusting. Look inwards. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You gave up 21 points to the Vikings. You had 1 quarterback hit. Do you want me to read your fucking stat line back? I'll read it back to you again. 0 tackles. 0. You were a ghost, non-existent, 1 quarterback hit, and that's what you fucking said? Are you kidding me? That's egregious. It's egregious, and for you to be in your 3rd year, where you have people on your back, and people have been on your back since day fucking 1. And Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, these are the guys they're fucking honoring, and you talk left and right about how you want to be a leader and you want to be great, then fucking show up. Show up. I don't want to hear that you're not getting holding calls. It's year 3. It's enough. That infuriated me, clearly. Like, there were a lot of things that pissed me off yesterday, obviously. And then I'm listening to that post game and I'm like, this is your reaction? And you can be, listen, I understand that some of the defense is probably pissed at Daniel Jones. And you can be pissed at Daniel Jones all you want. He deserves the blame. He played like shit. No one is denying that. But for you to act like you played any better than him is despicable, because you fucking didn't. The stat line shows it, the tape shows it, and everyone who watched that game with our own 2 fucking eyes saw it. So you better shut the fuck up and get back in the film room.